First thing we want to look at is the process of getting registered for an account. So on the screen, we're looking at the eFileDC site. And today I'm using our stage site so we can, get in here and play with everything and not have to worry about messing anything up. So that's why you'll see this URL up here at the top. But with that said, in the bottom right-hand corner, when you first go to the site, the first thing you're going to have to do as an attorney or just a pro se filer, anyone that's using this would come in and click on our register button. So just like with any other site or any other tool that you're using, we have to actually set up an account that can be registered to you. So the few things that are required here on the screen for us to fill out include our email address and then some contact information. You can set up that password to your preference. And if you'll notice, anything that has a red star or asterisk will be required. Once we've entered that information, we can agree to our terms and conditions and go ahead and hit that register button. What will happen from there is that it will come to your email address and have you activate it by clicking on a little link. Once you activate your account, you can come right back to the login page and click on the sign into your account, and it'll use the same email address and password that you just registered with. Once we get signed in, there'll be a few things that immediately pop up on the screen for you. Because I'm already registered, it doesn't for me, but for new users, it's going to tell you immediately that you need to both set up a payment account and an attorney. So for everyone here, where we'll see that is over here on the left-hand side. We can click on Firm Management. At the top of that list, we'll see users, attorneys, payment accounts, and firm details. So first thing that I recommend doing is look at that payment accounts page, and we can see that we can easily jump from one to another here. But once we get on the firm payment accounts, because I already have some set up, we see those listed out. But for everyone that doesn't, you would click on Add an Account. From here, you can name that account. Typically, users would put their name and whatever credit card they're using. You can then select what kind of payment account it'll be, credit card, waiver, bank account, and enter that information. And we won't go through all of this, but again, this is just essentially adding a payment account, just like you would on, say, your Amazon account that you can use to submit envelopes when you get to the payment part of that process. Additionally, we'll have to have an attorney set up if we're filing envelopes as an attorney. So for the firm attorneys, we can see that I have some already set up, but just like with the payment accounts, we can click on this add button here, and then we'll be required to enter some information. For the attorney info, we just need a first, last name, and an active attorney or bar number. Once that's entered, we can click save, and we'll see that attorney show up in our firm attorneys list. Coming back to the home screen, once we've added that information, because that will be what we're first prompted to do, we can come and immediately start filing into envelopes. And for today's training, what we're going to do is we're going to file an initial envelope. So to do that, we'll click on Start Filing. We can see here that we're prompted for a few options. Firstly, we can file a new case, or we can file into an existing case. After we file this new case, I'll come back and show you guys how to do a search and subsequently file into an envelope. But for this first step, we'll look at new case. We also have the ability to bulk file cases for both initial and subsequent, and then just file singular cases or single envelopes in each instance. For this first part, we'll click Start a New Case, and we're just going to submit one envelope to initiate one new case. Once we select that, we're going to see at the top of the screen a few numbers, and this is a workflow that will go from left to right. The first thing we'll be prompted to select is a court location. In this dropdown, this is where we'll naturally see all the court locations that we have available to file into in DC, just to show you what's all here. For today's example, we'll use the civil actions. Once I make that selection, it's going to determine what shows up in my case categories and case types. In this case category drop down, because we only have civil actions set up for this one, that's all we see. And then in the case types drop down, we'll see a list view of all the case types that we can submit into this category and this court. And just to show you guys some of the options that are there. For today, I'm just going to do administrative proceedings. Once we've made those selections, we can click on the Parties button in the bottom right hand of the screen. And we'll be prompted to enter party information, and we can see that with this specific case, we have a plaintiff and defendant that are both required. So to enter the information for each of those, we'll click on the hyperlink beside it. From here, we'll notice that there's some required sections, including both first and last name, and then some optional sections down further below for contact information and attorney info. We'll also do the same thing for defendant. And as you've noticed, just like with all the other sections on the site, anything required has the red asterisk or the red star. Once we've completed our required parties, we do have the option to add additional parties, but if not needed, we can go ahead and proceed to the next step, which would be the filings. So we'll click on our filings button. On the filings page, this is where we'll actually add specific events or specific filing codes. So to add those, we click the Add Filing. From here, we can choose from our filing code dropdown a list of all the filing codes that are currently set up with this court and this specific case category and type. We can see those listed out, and then the fees associated with each of them, if there are any fees. And again, I'll scroll down here just so you can kind of get an idea of what this court has. I'm going to choose complaint filed for this example. We can also add a client reference number, description. We'll be required to add a filing on behalf of. So this is where we can select which party we're filing on this behalf of. Under that, we'll be required to upload a lead document, and this lead document is just the document that's associated with this specific filing. I'll click my select file, upload that document, and that is something you'll have to have saved on your computer that you can upload. And then we also have the ability to add an attachment, which is a supporting document to the lead document. And there are a few things that I want to kind of highlight here before we proceed forward is we do have a maximum file size of 26 megabytes, and the accepted file types are the portable document file, the PDF, and text file, TXT. So if anytime you're going through the filing process and you're possibly having errors with that, just check and make sure that you're meeting those requirements. Once we add that, we can click Save. We have the ability to add more filings. There are no limits on how many filings we can add per each envelope, so just keep that in mind. Once we've completed the filings, we can click on the Service button. What this service page is, this allows us to serve other parties or other individuals the documents that are in this filing by submitting the envelope. And so that's sort of the long-winded answer. The short-winded answer is that when I submit this envelope, if I've added a specific email address as a service contact, it will be email serviced this the documents that I added in this filing. We can add those by adding me, adding from a firm list, adding from the public list, or adding new contacts. If we add from the firm list, just an example here, we can select which party this service contact will be associated with, and then from there, we can choose from this firm service contact list which one will be associated. So once I submit this envelope, jonesy06@gmail.com will receive an email service of this filing. Once we've completed that, we'll navigate to the fees page. From here, we'll be required to select a payment account. And this is where those payment accounts that we added as soon as we got logged in will show up. Anything that we've added within our firm, and that includes anyone else within our firm, will show up here in this dropdown. And the benefit of that is one firm can use the same credit card or same debit card or waiver, whatever the case might be, and share that. We'll be required to select their party responsible for fees. We can add a filing attorney. Once completed, we'll calculate our fees. This will show us a full breakdown of all the fees that we are going to be required to pay with the submission of this envelope. You'll see those breakdowns here, $120 for the complaint filed. We have a total services fee of $5 and then a convenience fee of $8, which brings our total to $133. And when we hit the submit button, $133 hold will be put on our account. We can click the summary button from there. Here on the summary page, this is where we'll have the opportunity to sort of review everything that we've selected and entered. At the very top, this court has a submission agreements. So we'll have to read through that, check our box. We can scroll down and review everything we've entered during this submission. We also have edit buttons beside each of those sections that allow us to go back to it and make changes if needed. Once we've completed our review, we can click on the submit button and it'll go ahead and start processing and submitting this envelope over to the court's review queue to review and either accept or send back for corrections. Now, as I mentioned with the fees, once I hit that submit button, it's going to put a hold of $133 on my account. That's just to ensure that the funds are there to pay for this filing. The money will not be pulled out until the court actually accepts that specific submission. Now, once that's submitted, we'll be assigned a unique envelope number, so 3095. The envelope number is a unique receipt number for that submission. So every time I submit an envelope or any kind of filing, it's going to assign me a unique envelope number. And the reason being is that allows both the court, yourself, and our support teams to look at those specific submissions without having to look at a case and look through a number of them. Keep in mind, there can be only one envelope number, but there can be a case number that has multiple envelope numbers within it. So you can have multiple submissions into a singular case. From here, we can review that receipt or return to the dashboard. Now, I want to go ahead and also show everyone on the call how to look up a case to subsequently file into it. So just like with starting an initial case, we'll click Start Filing, except this time we're going to come over here to the File into Existing Case. We'll click on this button and we'll be prompted to select the location of the case that we want to look up. We can search by case number or by party name, and then we'll be required to enter that case number. And if y'all give me just a moment, I'll grab a case number and look that up right now. So once we enter that case number, we can also choose a sorts by and then click search. And what this is doing is it's looking into the court's CMS system and pulling that case number and case information back to the e-filing system so that we can now file into it. When it finds that, it'll show us the case number, parties associated, location, category, and type. From here, our options are to file into the case with the template, view the service contacts on the case, or we can bookmark the case. If you want to subsequently file into it, you'll just click File into Case. And just like with the initial filing, we'll be prompted to go through the selections up here at the top with this subsequent filing. The differences will be that for case information, this information will already be entered and you can't change it. For the party information, we'll have existing parties that you can't change the information on. You can view it by clicking on our actions. And then you also have the ability to add additional parties to the case. From there, the filing process will look just like it did for the initial filings. Fill out our filings, service, fees, summary, and submit. I want to also show everyone how to bulk file into an existing case. So same thing, we'll click Start Filing. And we have options to bulk file cases for new cases and bulk file cases into cases that are existing. The real benefit is bulk filing into existing cases because we can look up the case numbers and then bulk file the same filing code into multiple cases. So that's what we're going to look at today. You can also bulk file into new cases, but it will require you, just like with the initial case, to go through and make the selections for each one. So with that said, we'll click bulk file into cases. Just like with the subsequent filings, we'll have to look or select a location. And for this, we'll name the bulk filing. You can name it whatever you want, whatever your preference is. This is just for you to keep track of this specific bulk filing that you did. We'll click continue. From here, we have three options on how we can look up the specific cases that we want to add to this bulk filing. So we can use our bookmark search, and this will pull up all the cases that we personally have bookmarked. I just have this one case bookmarked. And so for me to add it to this bulk filing, I just simply need to select the checkbox and then click proceed. If I had a lot of cases in my bookmarks, I could look those up by specific location, case number, and description. Once I click proceed, I'll click add to bulk. And then we'll click done. Once I do that, in my test bulk filing 3, we'll see that case showing up. We can also we can also look those up from case search, and this will look very similar to our subsequent filing case search. So we'll choose our location and our case number and click search. We'll see that case number pop up, and just like with the bookmarks, we can check the box beside it and click proceed and then add to bulk. And then lastly, we can add cases from our filing history. So if you have a filing history you've previously filed into existing cases, we can come to that filing history and it will show that list view of all of those, so we can just easily check the boxes beside those. I've only filed into one case for DC, so we're only seeing one. But if, say, you filed into 20, 30, 40 different cases, you could look through this list view and check all the boxes beside them and easily add those to the bulk. All right, now once we've added the cases to the bulk, I'm going to go ahead and click bulk add filings. From here, we're going to be prompted to select which cases again we want to use for this bulk filing. So we can easily check this box at the top or the individual cases underneath. It'll highlight this add filing once you've selected that. We can click on this and it'll take us to the add filings, and this should look very familiar. This looks just like the initial and subsequent filings. We'll click the add filing button. At the top, I'm going to select eFile only because I just want to eFile this and not serve anyone. I'll be required to select a filing code, upload a lead document, and you can see the same options that we have to enter client reference number, description, comments to the court, and then additional attachments that are supporting documents for our lead document. We'll click the Save button. We can add more filings if needed. We can edit the previous filings we've added, or if we needed to remove one, we can click the trash can to remove that. Once we completed added the specific filings we want to put into these cases, we'll click Save Filings. This will show us the list view, sort of like the summary page. We can click Save. From here, we'll need to associate the parties with each case. So we'll click the Associate Parties button. All we have to do is check the box beside the specific filing code, click Select. and then select the part we want to associate with that filing. Check the box and click Save. And we will have to do that for each one. Once completed, we can click Done. And then it'll take us back to this sort of summary page. We can click on the Fees button. From here, we'll be required to associate a payment account with each case. We can do that individually, or at the top, we can select one that'll be used for each. After we've made those selections, we can click the Calculate Fees. And once that's calculated, it'll show us a full breakdown of all the fees associated with this submission, and then click our Summary button. And again, the real benefit of the bulk filing is that we can submit multiple filings or individual filings into multiple cases all at once. So it just makes that process a little faster if you're filing something similar across multiple cases. And the last thing I really want to do in this training is walk everyone through the different boxes we have here on the screen, and then any additional tabs we have on the left-hand side. So we've obviously seen our start filing section. Just to the right of that is the filing history. If I click on this link here, it will show me all the envelopes or cases that I've previously filed into. Those are going to be showing up in this little sections here and organized in columns and rows, including our filing status, the filing code in each of the envelopes, filing type, description, and then a client reference number if we had added one. We can look at the envelope details for each of those submissions. We can file into the case with the template. We can view service contacts. We can bookmark a case, and then we can copy the envelope. So you can see that it's grayed out for some selections versus others. And that just means that depending on the status of an envelope or a case, it will allow us to do certain things. So if we look at the actions underneath that, and at this case, because this is a case number that's in accepted status, I have the ability to file into the case with template, and then bookmark this specific case. If this was an envelope that had been returned for corrections, we would be able to click on the copy envelope and correct that envelope and then resubmit it. So that's really important for attorneys. If you get something sent back to you that needs corrections, we can always come to our filing history, click on the actions, and then copy that envelope. That just allows you to resubmit it with a lot of efficiency without having to make additional without having to go through the process of making the same selections and the redundancy of that. We also have our drafts page, which just shows us a list view of all the drafts that we've started. So in the instance you started filing into a case or started filing a new case and you just didn't finish it, you can always come back to our drafts and pick up right where we left off. It's organized very similar to the filing history page. It has the rows and columns that we see here, and then our actions drop down allows us to do very similar things, but also includes resuming the draft, deleting the draft. Under our start filing is our case search. If we click on search cases, this just allows us to look up specific cases using our location drop down and then the case number or party name. So similar, just like we saw with the subsequent filings, we'll see this here. We can add that case number there and click search. From here, we can use the actions to file into with a template, view the service contacts, or bookmark a case. So this is really just another place that we can look up cases and begin to file into them or see specific information about them. We can go to our bookmarks page. This shows us a list view of all the cases that we've bookmarked. In the instance we have some, we can file into case, file a template, use service contacts, or remove the bookmark on the specific case. And then lastly, we have a templates page. This allows us to set up specific templates that we want to use over and over again to file into cases. So if we had a very similar process that you use to file into new cases over and over again, we can set up a template specifically for that process, and you can use that to file new cases just with greater efficiency and greater ease. On the left-hand side, we also have the firm management page that we looked at earlier for payment accounts and attorneys. Also want to show everyone the firm users workspace. This is going to show us a list view of all the users that are within our firm. So we'll see those organized here by their first, last name, email address, and the roles that they have, roles and rights they have access to. To add a user, we would click on the Add User button. We prompted to add a first name, last name, email address, and set up their roles. So in the instance you had a new attorney join your firm, or just a new individual that needs to be added to your firm, this is where you would come to add them. So rather than them going in and registering themselves as an entirely different firm, the best option and best practice would be for you as an admin of your firm to come in and add them so that they don't have an existing firm outside of yours. So think of it as sort of an umbrella account. Outside of that, we have the edit button, which allows us to edit users, and the delete user trash can. At the very bottom, we have firm details. This just shows us the firm details that or the details about the firm we're registered in. So our firm name, address, and the details for that. We can also edit that information if we ever needed to. Under the firm management is the service contacts. And if you want to manage, add, remove firm service contacts, you can come to this page. We see that we have a few already registered for mine, but that includes first, last name, and email address. We can add those contacts by clicking Add Contact, and you can see the required sections here. Again, service contacts are for the use to be of you being added to cases so that that individual can be sent the details about specific envelopes and submissions. So they're going to be e-served and sent over to this specific email address. And then lastly, we have our reports, which in this workspace, it allows us to look up specific reports for both my filings and my firm's filings. So we have some details up here at the top about, excuse me, about what those reports will look like. But we can submit this by my filings or my firm's filings. The difference would be my filings would just include any envelopes and cases that I've filed into, and then my firm's would include everyone that's within my firm's filings. We can do by all locations, all statuses, and then the date from and to. And once we've made those selections, we can click the download report. And what it will do is it will pull all that information out in an Excel spreadsheet that you can save on your computer and just use in whatever business practice you currently have. Last thing we'll look at in this training is in the top right-hand corner for our specific account. You can see my initials here in a drop down. If I select on this, it allows me to go to profile or sign out. If I click on profile, it'll take me to the profile information for me, including my name, email address, and this is where I can change my password, old, new, re-enter new. I can update my email notifications. So this is in the instance that I have an envelope that's accepted, failed, rejected, submitted, receipted, or services undeliverable. If I have these boxes checked, I'll receive an email notification for that. So this is where we can manage that. And then preferences include hotkeys that are enabled or disabled. And that's going to conclude the training for today. As I mentioned, we've got about 20-25 minutes to answer questions. So what we'll do is I'll go ahead and start scrolling through some of the questions. And if John or Claire have answered them, I'll kind of just reiterate that for the rest of the team. And if not, I'll do my best to answer those or allow Claire to answer any business process questions. But before we jump into this, if anyone needs to jump off, I appreciate you joining today. And I hope you've been able to get something out of this training. We're always here to help answer questions. And we have a number of other resources that you can go to the filing site and access to help both you get registered and set up, along with walk you through the filing process. Again, we are recording this and we'll be passing this along to Claire and her team to hand out to the attorneys in the need.